I'm going to show you why the very thing that makes you successful is also the thing that's draining your energy, tightening your body, and keeping you anxious when life looks great on paper. This is based on 25 years of work helping high achievers rewire the part of their nervous system that mistakes control for safety. Once you understand this, you'll see why doing more, planning harder, or staying on top of everything only deepens burnout. When you learn how to shift from control to trust, your system starts to reset. Your sleep improves, your body relaxes, and you perform better without forcing it. If you've been winning, but still feel like you're losing yourself in the process, this video's for you. Let's dive in. I want to talk about something that's destroying high performers. It's not failure, but it's control. Because what if I told you that your obsession with getting it right, your endless due diligence, your overthinking, and your planning is actually the thing that's keeping you stuck in burnout? Most people think it's about doing too much, but for achievers, it's often about not being able to let go. You've built your success by taking control, but now that same skill is running your life, and in this video, I'll show you exactly how to break that cycle, not by doing less, but by finally learning how to trust yourself again. Let me share a story with you. A client of mine, let's call him James, was overseeing a multi-million-dollar business deal. He had one shot, a $1.5 million launch, and the pressure was suffocating. He had spreadsheets, systems, contingency plans, everything dialed in, but the more data he gathered, the less certain he felt. Because the truth was, no matter how much he analyzed, there was no formula that could guarantee success. And that's what broke him. He told me on a call, "I'm second guessing everything. I can't relax. I know I'm doing good work, but I can't stop thinking about what I've missed." Sound familiar? Well, you see, high achievers don't burn out because they're lazy or undisciplined. They burn out because they never stop running mental marathons trying to outthink uncertainty. Not possible. The illusion of control. Here's the truth. There's no point in your career, your business, or your life where you'll ever have complete certainty. And yet your nervous system is wired to chase it, to feel safe only when everything's under control. But when control becomes your comfort zone, your biology shifts into permanent survival mode. That's when your intuition, your higher intelligence, goes offline. It's why you can be brilliant on paper, yet make poor decisions when you're stressed. Because panic and anxiety block access to the part of your brain that sees clearly. It's the same reason a pro athlete misses a 3-foot putt or a seasoned executive blanks out mid-meeting. Their skill hasn't disappeared, their body just can't access it under pressure. So what do? We don't push harder, we gotta change our state. How to shift out of survival mode. When your brain is in high gear, spreadsheets, deals, strategies, that's focused thinking. It's powerful, but it has limits. At some point, you hit diminishing returns. You stop thinking clearly and start looping. Did I check that? Did I miss this? To unlock your best decisions, you have to switch from focused thinking to diffuse processing. Here's how you do it. Step away intentionally. Probably the hardest part for so many people. After 2 to 3 hours of deep work, walk outside, no phone, no podcasts. Just look at the sky, feel the air. Your body resets its aperture, literally opening your nervous system to new information. This is so important, this one, stepping away and getting outside. So when you're in intense focused work, focused thinking mode, you have what's called straw-like focus, which is very valuable. Okay, I'm not saying this is bad. You're high focus, but you're kind of seeing everything through a straw. And so what happens is you lose the bigger picture thinking, you lose that diffuse mode of processing, And you're not allowing your higher level intelligence, your intuition, all the information in your unconscious to actually start to solve some of the things you're solving. You're trying to do it consciously. The analogy with, if you ever played golf, the last thing you want to do when you address that ball is think about the 7 things you need to do to hit this ball properly, right? You cannot think about, I got to make sure I turn my hitch. I got to make sure my elbows are at a certain level. I got to make sure my wrists are cocked. I got to make sure my head stays down. To think through those steps is going to be a disaster. You've lost your ability to react, to respond, and leverage the capacity that already lives inside of your body. And the only way to do that is you got to get into diffuse processing. You got to get your mind into bigger thinking processes. And that's why you have to open up the aperture of your visual cortex, right? So instead of the straw-like focus, get outside, look at the sky, look at a horizon, open up your visual range. Look at the bigger picture, literally, to get your brain out of that focused thinking. One of the most powerful things you can do throughout your day. This is why going for walks after intensive work, go walk outside, is a habit that some of the greatest thinkers that have ever walked this planet, they all do it. From Benjamin Franklin to Charles Darwin to Da Vinci. I mean, you name some of the greatest thinkers, and intensive work for a few hours at a time and then long walks in nature was part of their routine. The second thing that's useful is breathing. And so I put here a 4-1-8-1 breath. Okay, so what does that mean? It means you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 1, you exhale for 8, and then you hold for 1. This pattern, this rhythm, literally tells your body that you're safe. And within minutes, clarity will return, and more importantly, you'll get to that bigger picture thinking. Okay, and the reason for this is when you're in that intensive focused thinking, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. And if you're in chronic stress state, then you're definitely high levels of sympathetic drive. And the only way to get out of that intensity is you got to get the nervous system to downregulate. You got to get the nervous system to shift. So one of the easiest ways to get out of that sympathetic nervous system state and into what's called the parasympathetic state. Sympathetic is fight, flight, drive. Parasympathetic is rest and digest and perspective, right? And so one of the tricks is, as long as your exhale is longer than your inhale, this is why you'll see the inhales 4, the exhales 8, you'll drive parasympathetic activation. And this is really important when you need to get to that bigger perspective, what I call getting to 20,000 feet, to gain some perspective. And also to recover from the intensity that you were just putting out there. The third piece is what I call transition rituals. These are very powerful. And so what's the difference between a ritual and a routine? A ritual is something that you do before or after a certain behavior, but that behavior could take place many times during the day. One of the most classic versions of a ritual are athletes before they take a free throw in basketball. Like they'll dribble the ball the same amount of times. They'll take the same number of deep breaths. Even people that do presentations, executives that do presentations or people that perform, they have a ritual in order to get their mind and their nervous system in the proper place to execute at a high level. And so with these transition rituals, when you finish work and walk into your home, like that's a transition. You're transitioning from one thing to the next, work into home. Like that's like so many of us can relate to, like that transition can be difficult for so many people. And so if you create a ritual where I have a lot of people do it in their car before they get out of their car and walk towards their front door, or some people pause at the door and then they can do the same breathing pattern, down regulate, and then set an intention, right? Hey, I'm shifting from, doing to being, right? And you can name what you want to bring it into the space, into your home. These rituals will retrain your body to turn off fight or flight, and more importantly, you'll learn how to live with intention. Every single thing you're doing, you just take a second and acknowledge what your intention is in this moment, right? Because your intentions when you're at work, I hope, are different than when your intentions are when you go home, right? They should be different. Micro recovery loops, number 4, when you're driving this hard, and if you're a high performer, then, I call it, you have a brain like a Ferrari. You can go 200 miles an hour, but without pit stops, 10 minutes of light breathing or stillness every few hours refuels performance. And if you don't get that recovery, then you don't get your intuition, you don't get that higher level of thinking. And so we've got to make sure that we're doing things to refuel, because running at 200 miles an hour without pit stops, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when the body starts to break down. So here's the turnaround with my client here. When he started doing this, instead of grinding until 2 a.m., he closed his laptop, walked outside, and breathed. Within a week, he told me, "It's weird. I'm not working more hours, but I'm producing better work. The answers are just coming." Yes, this is efficiency, right? You don't need to work as hard if you have more efficient behaviors and actions, right? It's the sharpen the saw analogy. If you're sawing with a dull blade, it probably makes sense to take some time to sharpen the blade. Right now, a lot of what prevents us from doing that is we've convinced ourselves that more is better, more production is better, and if I stop and rest, we look at that. A lot of my high performers look at that as like, I wasn't productive today, I didn't do anything. It's like, no, recovery is actually one of the most productive things you can do. Sharpening your saw is really, really productive. And his experience here was not coincidence. Like I said, it's just biology. This is just the way it works, guys. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, it doesn't matter. What I'd recommend is not only admitting it, but taking advantage of it. So when you move from control to clarity, your nervous system reconnects with that intelligence. You have access to it, and you stop fighting yourself. Okay? So frustrating to be in that experience. I think so many of us can relate to that. So what's the conclusion here? If you're someone who can't turn your mind off, if you're brilliant but exhausted, which I'm sure you are, stop trying to solve your way out of stress. Like, big mistake to try to manage stress. Start trusting your system again, because clarity isn't found through control, it's found through recovery. If this hit home, drop a comment below with your biggest struggle around stress or control, and I'll personally reply with a strategy that you can use right now. Or if you're ready to break this pattern for good, book a consult with the link below. I promise you, you already have the intelligence. It's time to learn how to access it.